Thank you, Professor Paranjape. Good evening. I'm afraid, how do you feel after these discussions? Good evening or the tired evening? I first bow down to my the Supreme Consciousness, name is Shiva. I bow down to my gurus, my spiritual masters, the seers and monks from Eastern traditions and the Western traditions. I am thankful, rather grateful to NIAS, especially Professor Sangeeta, Professor Srikantan, and, who is impeccably active inside and outside the auditorium. My concern is here to focus on consciousness from the viewpoint of Kashmir Shaivism, though I belong to a tradition called Kashi Shaivism, but here we will discuss how Kashmir Shaivism is and how consciousness looks beautiful or ugly from the viewpoint of Kashmir Shaivism. We have 6 systems of Shaivism in India: Nandikeshwar Shaiva, Raseshwar Shaiva, Pashupad Shaiva, Siddhanta Shaiva, Vishishtadvait, and Kashmir Shaivism. Kashmir Shaivism is most modern. It is developed in 9th century when Muslim invasion is here after Adi Shankaracharya, after Gupta period. So, this is a very huge system known as Kashmir Shaivism, developed in the region of Kashmir. Before entering into this horizon, I would like to recapitulate what we have already discussed on consciousness in numerous national and international conferences. Let us recapitulate. Since it is a blanket word, in Western thought, consciousness is extended mind located somewhere in the brain. Consciousness is identified with mind, and the mind is identified with the brain. From Plato, human personality is regarded as dichotomous, consisting of only body and mind. Consciousness is intentional, that is, consciousness of something. Consciousness is full of content. Consciousness and knowledge are regarded as the same. No clear distinction between life and consciousness. Now, instead of Eastern attitude, I am saying Asian attitude. In Indian thought, consciousness is independent of mind. Human personality is regarded as dichotomous, that is, consisting of body, mind, and Atman. Consciousness is devoid of intentionality. This is Leela. Consciousness is contentless. Consciousness and knowledge are not one and the same. Consciousness is transcendent reality, and the brain is only an instrument through which consciousness manifests itself. Consciousness is self-existent, self-dependent, self-luminous, and having 2 faces, immanent and transcendent. Knowledge is an emergent phenomena. It emerges when mind goes with consciousness. Knowledge and beauty are inherent, so emergent. Now, Kashmir Shaivism. In India, seers who had the revelation in the transcendental state of mind, after realizing or attaining the revelation of Shruti, they descended to communicate their revelation to the ordinary people or the ordinary monks or the other monks in terms of certain languages. Because a human mind with the ordinary eyes uses the ordinary language. They use certain kind of language using the same images, imageries and words. For example, upside down language in Nath Siddha Sampradaya, where we find the blanket is falling and the rain is wetting. This is known as, in Buddhist Tantric tradition, as twilight zone language. Then we have mythological language, Akhyan Bhasha, upside down language, Sandhi Bhasha or Sandhya Bhasha. Then the poetic language from the mouths of poets in Indian aesthetics. So several kind of languages. These are different from the ordinary languages. That's why we have a sense of mystic linguistics in India. So, and all these languages carry the symbols, the symbolic mysticism, or everything is conveyed symbolically, because these all are subjective consciousness, the subjective experience, the subjective revelations. So in order to communicate, they try to use the language called mystic language, or the coded language, hidden language one has to decode. So in order to convey the entire system of Kashmir Shaivism, we must know the technical terms from Kashmir Shaivism. In crux, it says that all we are Jiva, the individual souls, who has forgotten that we are Shiva, the Supreme Consciousness. Only we require the remembrance, the reminiscence, the recollection that we are actually true self or Supreme Consciousness. The name of true consciousness or Supreme Consciousness in Kashmir Shaivism is Bhairava or Anuttara. In other words, in Kashmir Shaivism it is said, Shiva himself has forgotten that he is Shiva and considered himself as Jiva, the individual soul. Now he is trying to recapitulate, to remember that he is Shiva. This is the crux of Kashmir Shaivism, known as the system of Pratyabhigyan, because Pratyabhigyan means recollection. That's why the English term for Pratyabhigyan is recognition, not recognition. This is recognition, means again that we already know. Now in order to, this is for language, and in order to understand the very crux of the other things of Kashmir Shaivism on consciousness, I just picked up a certain thing deeply concerned to consciousness, that is Pratibha Swatantrya. Pratibha Swatantrya, in English it is creative flight or creative freedom. So if we understand in few seconds, few moments what creative freedom is, what Pratibha Swatantrya is, we can go through the entire of Kashmir Shaivism. So first, since we communicate symbolically, we can have an allegory or analogy, that we are looking at this curtain. If we assume a huge curtain in the sky, and like we in our veranda we make it dry if it is wet on the rope. Similarly, if we assume that we have a huge sky, enormous, and we have a huge cloth, but not maroon, but white and transparent. So we bifurcated this space in two sides, side A and side B. Behind the curtain, or in this side, there is tremendous silence, enormous beauty, timelessness, enjoy, ecstasy, and at the other side it is this universe. This is the allegory. Whatever the silence desires, it is happening on this side. So if we begin with to stay in this side, we can understand what is within, inside the forms, the things, the thoughts, because thought is thing or thing is thought, right? So from this point of view we are proceeding. Both the immanent and the transcendent constitute the integral approach towards consciousness. This is the first sutra, Shiva Sutra, that is Chaitanyam Atma. Chaitanyam Atma means not the awareness of the self, but awareness is the self. In my abstract, my topic is given self as creative flight in consciousness or in Kashmir Shaivism. Here I am terming consciousness as creative freedom in Kashmir Shaivism. So the first sutra, first Shiva Sutra by Vasugupta is Chaitanya Atma, that is awareness of the self. No, awareness is the self. Integral approach towards consciousness, that is, the immanent and the transcendent, is referred as the Vimarsh and the Prakash. Prakash is behind the screen, or if we are here in this side, we are the Prakash already, and the entire universe, the matter, the duality, this is Vimarsh. Consciousness is contentless, but Vimarsh is not contentless. Vimarsh contains all that is to be. Integral approach towards consciousness means communication between two images, two existing images, between Prakash and Vimarsh. They are in coupling state known as Yamal. Here we have the bifurcation, but this is actually the veil due to our ignorance, avidya. When we look at the things which are real, we create illusion. When we think, we create illusion or maya or the veil. When we accept things as it is, then we don't have any veil, we don't have any ignorance. Since we have ignorant being, that's why the monks, the seer from ancient tradition, they use a certain kind of language. So the Vimarsh and the Prakash are in the coupling state, Ardhanarishwar, which is termed in Kashmir Shaivism as Yamal. Now, realizing the topic, Pratibha Swatantrya, that is the creative freedom or creative flight. The background is Buddhism, Yogacar-Vijnanvad. The foreground is Kashmir Shaivism, Pratyabhigyan system, and the missing link is Vakyapadiya of Bhartrihari. There are three terms in Buddhism: Parikalpita, Paritantra, Parinishpanna. In Kashmir Shaivism, Unmukh, Pratimukh, Abhimukh. In Vakyapadiya, Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti. All are same. Parikalpita is Unmukh, is Vaikhari, means we intend towards the universe, the outside, the sensory beings. Paritantra, Pratimukh and Madhyama means looking within. Parinishpanna, Abhimukh, Pashyanti is the reflection of light, of Prakash. Avyakta, the unmanifested or indeterminate, is Shunya, that is here. Vyakta or determinate is manifest, that is universe on the other side. The real is indeterminate. Vikalp or thought form or thought construct imposed on real is avidya or ignorance. Viewing real through thought form is avidya. The imputed aspect of appearance is parikalpita. The entire world of objects imputed on consciousness is therefore essentially unreal. The entire world of forms or appearance, the grandeur of consciousness, essentially creative, is abhasvad. The entire universe, if we are sitting this side and we are perceiving the entire universe, that is our own grandeur. This is not Prakriti or Maya. Prakriti in the sense of Sankhya, that we have to liberate it, we have to withdraw our senses from Prakriti to be Purush. This is not in the sense of Shankaracharya Advaita Vedanta, that this is Maya, we have to be scared of. This is the entire universe, the Vishwa, is the grandeur of the same Prakash, same supreme consciousness. Both are in the coupling state known as Yamala. In Buddhism, Nam is within, Roop is without. In Kashmir Shaivism, consciousness is within, is immanent, not empirical. It is Prakriti, Vishwamay, full of content. The Vimarsh aspect contains all. Parinishpanna of Buddhism is absolute reality. Pratibha is the reflection of Sphota. I will discuss at length what Pratibha is. The recollection of the unmanifest, the recognition of Shiva, the revelation of Anuttara, the absolute reality. The term for the absolute supreme consciousness is Anuttara. There are levels of consciousness, the highest is Anuttara. All 36 categories are abhas, each contains all. Each contains all. The world contains all. The sky contains all. It is called Parthiva. It is named Prithvi because the chief constituent of Prithvi is Prithvi or earthly. In drama, music, there are so many rasas or bhavas. Shringar contains all. You need not to portray other rasas or bhavas. Since its chief constituent is Shringara, that is why it is known as Shringara. That is why Bhavabhuti stresses on compassion, Karuna, Raja Bhoj on Shringara, and Abhinav Gupta is on Shantarasa. Each contains all. This is the characteristics of all-inclusiveness. It is called Shringar, it is called Prithvi or consciousness because its chief constituent is so. Everything is form, abhash, manifest, vyakta or thought. Thing is thought, thought is thing. Now there are levels of consciousness. This is known as Saptavidha Pramata. 7 levels of consciousness means 7 levels of Shiva, 7 levels of beauty. Shiva means beauty etymologically. There are Shambhu, Shankara, there are so many terms. All these are symbolic. Shankara, Shamkaroti iti Shamkara. Etymologically, we define all the terms or the vocabularies of a certain discipline or principle. So 7 levels of consciousness. The highest one is Anuttara. In descending order, next one is Sadashiva, where the supreme consciousness bifurcates itself into Shiva and Shakti. Prakash and Vimarsha. When Shakti is asking and Shiva is answering, this is known as Shaivagama. When Shiva is asking and Shakti is answering, that is known as Shaktagama. Similarly, Radha and Krishna, Pancharatragama, we have 28 agamas, Shaivagamas. My first Guru, Pandit Gopinath Kaviraj ji, he first introduced these things at length, that Arjuna is our questioning mind and Krishna is our answering mind. Similarly, Nachiketa and Yama, Yudhishthira and Yaksha, and all the dialogues. We find all Indian texts are written with the divine beginning, and the other characteristics is it is written in dialogical form, because by dint of our questioning mind and answering mind. Divine beginning means in Natya Shastra or in anywhere, divine beginning means from the transcendental state to immanent plane. Shiva, Brahma, Indra, Radha, Narad, Vishnu, these are the symbols from the transcendental state in order to communicate the consciousness at the immanent plane. The essential nature of Bhairavi is Chaitanya. Bhairavi is the technical term for Shiva in Kashmir Shaivism. The essential nature of Bhairavi is Chaitanya. Chit, Chaitanya, Chetana. The main characteristics of Chaitanya is Swatantrya, absolute freedom, reveals itself in Ichha, Gyan and Kriya. The power of Supreme Consciousness is threefold: power of will, power of knowledge, power of action. Ichha Shakti, Gyan Shakti and Kriya Shakti. This is symbolized by the trident or the Trishul of Shiva. If you apply these powers within yourself, if you have the will to meet me in Vanaras, if you have the knowledge, power of knowledge, where to meet, you will meet me without any doubt, without a second form, second thought. Applying your Ichha Shakti, Gyan Shakti and Kriya Shakti. What the Kashmiri Shaivite says. Bhairava, there are 5 actions by Bhairava. Good conducts are the doings. These are Chit, Anand and the others. 5 faces, we can find 5 faces of Shiva, Panchamukhi Shiva in India, throughout nationwide. 5 faces of Bhairava is creation, maintenance, destruction and 2 more. Srishti, Samhar and Sthiti. Srishti is creation, means manifestation from this side, this universe, the grandeur. Then the maintenance of the manifestation. Third one is dissolution of manifestation, which we call death. Fourth is concealment. In the nature we find self-concealment. It conceals so many things. And at the same time, finally, it is self-revelation, the 5th phase of Shiva or Bhairava. What is concealed is to be revealed. all the time in this universe, this process is going on. Manifestation, maintenance, withdrawal from manifestation, concealment and revelation. Revelation is called, in Kashmir Shaivism, grace, anugraha, shaktipat. Most of the time you are in the dais, on the podium, and you are forgetful. Everything is lost. That means the concealment of Bhairava. And suddenly some flashes, that is the revelation, that is the grace, kripa. These are the 5 faces of Shiva or Bhairava. Now the Pratibha. Pratibha is the ever creative force within us. We are discussing Pratibha Swatantrya. Pratibha is ever creative force. Pratibha, pra means from the background, from this side. Pratibha, yeah I know. Pratibha, Pratibha, Pratyabhigyan. The definition of Pratyabhigyan is Pratipam Jnanam Anen Atmabhimukhen Pratyabhigyan. Pratipam Atmabhimukhen Jnanam Anen iti Pratyabhigyan. Prati means from the background, from this side. There is ecstasy, speechless silence, tremendous silence, Satchidanand. Here we are, and we are projecting ourselves from within this universe, the grandeur. And this Pratibha is actually Atman in terms of Acharya Abhinavguptapad. Pratibha Swatantra means when we are free from our visible memory. So let us, in few words, in few terms, let us discuss what we have. Memory, human brain possesses 2 orders of memory. 2 orders in terms of David Bohm's implicate order. Human brain possesses 2 orders of memory. Visible memory, what we visualize. Invisible memory, what we cannot visualize, but it is there. It emerges like sudden flash of consciousness. Another Shiva Sutra is Udyamo Bhairava. Scholars like from Mardiskowski to Sri Ravi Shankar, they misinterpret this term Udyam. They say the exertion, the upsurge is Udyam. No, Gopinath Kaviraj and Thakur Jaydev Singh, they say that this is a technical term Udyam, that means sudden flash of consciousness, sudden flash of light. And sudden flash of consciousness is Bhairava. So there is a prayer in all the text of Abhinavgupta, Naumi Devim Sharirasthamritato Bhairava Krite. And lastly, there is a one word, Pravini Meg Ghanavyoma Vidullekha Vilasini. If there is a cloud full of rainy water and the sudden lightning is there, that is Pratibha. That is Shakti of Shiva. That lightning is embodied in the dancing form of Shiva. This is the image by Abhinavgupta. That's why he begins with this prayer, the dancing form of, that means this veil, this curtain is not static, sakshi, passive, sakshi or witness. There is a movement. If we have an imagery that white bird is flying in the white sky or white canvas, you cannot perceive empirically, but you can feel a movement of flying. That is the creative flight. So there is a movement, the curtain, the veil. All we are this side, and the universe is on the other hand. So the Pratibha, the sudden flash, the creative flight is there, that is the Shakti embodied in the dancing form of Shiva. It is dancing, there is a movement. That is one step ahead from the Vedantic view. Udyam is sudden flash of light, is Swatantrya, is actually invisible memory. Is Pratibha, the ever creative force, is Pratyabhigyan. There are some other things, Samanadhikaran and Sadharanikaran in Indian aesthetics, explained by Abhinavgupta when he commented upon Natya Shastra. These are other Shiva Sutras. Nartaka Atma, the supreme consciousness, is dancer. Rango Antaratma, the field is the stage where he dances. Prekshakani Indriyani, our senses are the spectators. On the basis of these sutras, from the viewpoint of Kashmir Shaivism, Acharya Abhinavguptapad, he commented upon Natya Shastra on acting, where he says one should act through the limbic system, not from the head, because when it is, head takes time, but body reflects in no time. There is a body wisdom. Everything comes out from the mind. From form is abhas, immanent consciousness is within the form, not the form itself. The face of consciousness is vimarsh. His unmukta, his intentness to create, this is manifestation. So when we are in between two existing images, there is a in Yogaj Marga, there is a text from Kashmir Shaivism, Vigyan Bhairava. It deals about 112 yoga methods are there. One of them is if we have two images and all images from our own chit, on our own mind. This image is also from Shulva Sutra, Ishyan Chitta, and there are other Chitta described in Shulva Sutra like Shamshan Chitta, Prak Chitta, Drona Chitra. On these, Bharat Muni developed the idea of auditorium. These are Trayasha, Chaturasha, Vikrishta, that is the triangular, rectangular, and the square. So if we imagine, if we have two images, one is from the Shyan Chitra and another is, if you consider it, this is the Shamshan Chitra, and if your eyes move from this image to this, and at the same time, if you stop in between the two images, your all senses turn inwards to move this side. This is the crux of Kashmir Shaivism. Thank you.
Between the absolute consciousness and the etheric experience.
Absolute consciousness and?
Etheric experience.
Eastern experiences.
Aesthetic.
Aesthetic experience. Yeah. Absolute consciousness, again that imagery. In this area of the curtain, the veil, there is the immense silence, immense joy, timeless joy, Satchid Anand. This enjoy, this Anand, the Supreme Consciousness is in an amazing state which is known as Chakita Mudra. Chakita Mudra. This is a form, the gesture of being amazed. That is the notion, that is imagery drawn by Abhinavgupta in comparison with Supreme Consciousness.
What is the difference between Chamatkara and Spandan?
Chamatkar, yeah. There is the coupling state of Vimarsh and Prakasha. If we are here, we can feel the pulsation, the throb, that is flying, the white bird is flying in the white canvas. You cannot perceive the white bird, but you can feel the movement, the pulsation, that it is flying. There is a movement that is actually the immovable movement, and that is spanda or throb.
Namaste ji, I'm an artist and I've studied a little of Kashmir Shaivism in California, and I wanted to know, as an artist, to move from the immanent to the transcendent, like you beautifully described one part of A and B, to move into the creative delight, where the other side is pure transcendence, joy. How does one go from the immanent to transcendent according to Kashmir Shaivism? Are there any methods, rituals, yantras, mantras?
No, we need not to have any tantra, mantra or yantra. If you go through the Natya Veda Vritti or Abhinav Bharati, the commentary upon Natya Shastra, yes. Abhinav pointed out so many things, elaborate so many things from the point of view of Kashmir Shaivism, of the 36 categories of Kashmir Shaivism. Now, he says, in the 8th chapter of Natya Shastra, Abhinav says that don't act on the stage with the skull, with the brain. Because when you look at something, shadow of maybe rope or snake, then your eyes receive the information, translated it into chemical signals, and it reaches to your brain, and the brain, the storehouse, it finds whether it is there or not. Then there is a debate, fight or flight. But before that, the snake will bite you. So there exists body wisdom. The intelligence is already there. Similarly, if we say there is a snake or shadow of snake or a cockroach, just
instinct.
That instant is reflex action. For the artist, that is Pratibha. Or by dint of Pratibha, he improvises. The improvised text is drama. The play is not drama. The improvisation is drama. So the improvisation is by the virtue of Pratibha. And that lifts you from the immanent state to the Anand state.
So we're using the art and the drama itself to move from the immanent to the transcendent.
Using your Pratibha.
Using your Pratibha.
If there is no improvisation, there is no sadharanikaran. Rasa or effect cannot comes into being if you have not improvised the text or the word or the silence. Only due to Pratibha you improvise and creates rasa or effect. Otherwise not.
I've always found if I understand it rightly, the initial manifestation from the unmanifest to the manifest in terms of Shiva and Shakti, which, if I understand it rightly, is something like witness consciousness on the one hand versus power energy. Is that right in terms of the interpretation of Shiva and Shakti?
Right.
What I found very interesting about that is that, and I'd be interested in your reflections, is that in some ways that separation right at the beginning arguably reflects the problem of finding, if you like, a power energy manifestation for phenomenal consciousness in its relationship to normal human functioning in the brain. So there is a kind of parallel there, which if that's right, would be a direct consonance between something that is arrived at independently by certain strands of Western thought and that ancient strand of Eastern thought.
In regarding to the question, I would like to tell something, that if we want to know what death is, we need not to die. And if we want to know what is after death, we need not to die first and then know everything, what is after death. We can have the same all experiences, what death is, what Shamshan Chitta is, and what is after death, while we are functioning in this human body. My humble request is, sir, in concern with your observation, that shift yourself this side. This is very simple. Not behind the curtain or behind the veil. If you are this side, if you are considering with this concept that we are Nitya Shuddha Buddha Chaitanya, ever creative, free, ever free creatively or ever creatively free consciousness, then only you can see the entire grandeur. Then veil does not exist, and then only you can find that you are hidden, you are within the all forms, categories in this universe. Consciousness is talking with the consciousness in plural way, and you can find all the epistemological problem, ontological problem, problem of evil, everything you will get if you begin with this side.
I have a question. I think if I got it right, you said about Kashmir Shaivism being beyond or higher than Vedanta psychology. I would like...
No.
Okay, what was the word? Then I missed it. And the whole idea of, Bharat Muni creating this fifth Veda and the importance of creation in Indian philosophy.
No, Bharat Muni, he created Veda by his own revelations from the transcendental state, where he says Brahma first witnessed the drama, that is pure dance, Shuddha Nritya, which is Tandav. Tandav is not Raudra Roop or the anger form of Shiva or the Bhava. Tandav means the pure Nritya, Shuddha Nritya. Then Shakti, his grandeur, added the dance that is known as Abhinay or Nritya with emotion. Shuddha Nritya, pure dance, the cosmic dance, and then the Abhinay, Lasya, It is called last. And then it is the coupling state of Shuddha Nritya, and Nritya is drama. This is what Bharat Muni described. Abhinav, from the point of view of Kashmir Shaivism, he described this as one step more.
One step more. That's what I was interested in.
Yes, one step more. That is, if it is constituted by 4 Vedas, with the essence of 4 Vedas, that means what? I myself, Gautam Chatterjee, never find anything written in Rig Veda about text. Bharat says that we have taken text from Rig Veda, emotion, the bhav, the acting from Yajurved, music from Samved, and rasa from Atharved. I myself gone through the entire text, the entire verses, and the entire 6,000 verse Sahasra Samhita of Natya Shastra, and the Dwadash Shastra Sangrita, the 12,000 verses from Natya Shastra. I never found any detail of text, action, or effect in Vedas. Now Abhinav helps me. If we say a sentence, a dialogue on the stage, we have to apply the Rig Veda, the essence of Rig Veda. That means there must be the exact meaning of the dialogue. You have to convey the meaning. That is Rig Veda, the essence of Rig Veda. You have to apply the bhava of the every words. In this 15th chapter, Bharat says, one cannot feel if there is no word. One must have the word in order to feel. Word is prior to the feeling. That's why Abhinav says, in order to deliver your dialogue, you must have some feelings of the dialogue. That is the essence of Yajurved. Then there must be an ascending and descending, that is Samved music. And finally, you have to create. You have to create effect, the essence, the rasa. So all 4 Vedas are there. This is one step, go ahead.
Thank you.
So first of all, thanks a lot for emphasizing so much on creativity. This is something I was been thinking about the last 3 days, especially because there are people studying consciousness in animals, trying to prove that. Others questioning whether empirical basis is really essential in order to prove anything. And so there's this book by Edgar Allan Poe which described like the beginnings of the universe, rather, which was his creative imagination, and telescopic findings now are still completely attributing all those ideas in that book to like discoveries we're making now. And there was a simple thought experiment over there, is like which we all can try out right now, is visualize a point and then increase the locus of the point to make it a circle. You can see the circles becoming bigger and bigger in your head as I speak. And finally, if I ask you to imagine an infinite circle, you straight away see that your mind is making it a finite volume. Maybe it's an infinite circle, it's assuming a finite volume. And I feel it's almost become essential for us to like have a finite representation of things, like physical constants. I don't know how many physicists use right now, become essential to really have mathematics progress. And on the other hand, you have Eastern philosophy, which have constants like number of levels of consciousness, or everything is like, again, like limited. And I feel like whether it be a monkey learning how to make a tool without really going to school, or a human being really creating something, as you said, this creativity entails thinking out of the box. And these flashes of creativity, which I think happen to everyone at some point in life, are like could quite be the keys to like what is this fluent extrapolatory expression of the self and replication of the self and into like creative expression and inventions, which could be a key to consciousness. And of course, borrowing from various creative disciplines, be it creative Vedic philosophy or physics or science, I feel everything is now becoming a point of creative expression, where there is like some amount of truism in everything.
My answer is silence or tranquility. Silence is the best eloquence. It speaks fluently.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. So I just wanted to ask you, we've known a lot about the Advaitic experience. I want to understand about the Kashmiri Shaivism. What is the experience when you see the world as the dancing Shiva? For example, with the Advaitic one, you see that there is a certain non-changing, all of that. But you see that the world is moving, but there's no real, in a sense, substantial reality to the world. So with Kashmiri Shaivism, when you have that experience, what would it?
If it is experiencing, it is dancing, then you must have the term experiencing, as J. Krishnamurti used to say, not experience. Dancing, you are experiencing as well, like a dancer. Dance is there when he or she is dancing.
Yes.
If he is not dancing, dance is not there. The dancing itself is experiencing in the moment eternally. So if you shift yourself here, which is eternal, timeless, then you will not think in terms of time. Past is thought is time.
Thank you.
I have a very small question for you. Somewhere during the course of your talk you mentioned act through your limbic system, not through your mind. And I would like you to elaborate on that point, because consciousness is cessation of the mind. Would you please elaborate on that?
I think I demonstrated that already. I already demonstrated that. When there is a certain kind of fear is already inherited in your body, and wisdom is already inherent in your body. So when you look at even the shadow of a cockroach or snake, your limbic system reacts in no time, like this, without any suggestion of brain debate from the memory, from the visible memory. That invisible memory, the recognition that body wisdom is already inherent, that is Pratibha. So you can translate your fear in terms of Pratibha to attain the joy and the ecstasy. That is the commentary by Abhinavgupta on Natya Shastra in the chapter 8, 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th verses.
Would this be applied to your cessation of mind in going to consciousness?
Cessation is mind is, I think, this is a nonsensical thing. No mind is very positive thing, but cessation of mind, I cannot imagine that kind of any. Because I can imagine in terms of Abhinavgupta, the magnum opus of Abhinavgupta is Tantra Lok, and the digest of Tantra Lok is Tantrasar, where he gives an imagery, Atma Prakasho Puresha. Atma, or the self, or the consciousness, is the form of light. How you can visualize? Thank you for your conscious sharing.
Thank you very much, Professor Chatterjee. Being asked to say a few things by way of concluding remark by the boss. Okay. I would like to share a few thoughts, reflections of mine in relation to the presentation so far. First one, I was delighted to hear from you, sir, about the progression of Western thought from Descartes to Hume through Kant. The reason for this for me is that I see the same traced, so to speak, in the early psychology by William James, who reflects on the ideas of Descartes and in between Locke and then Hume and Kant. And he rejects each one of these by his own dialectical method of rejecting, giving reasons. Omitting all the details, the main point, which seems to connect with your later point about Eastern thought, seems to me to be that one way of putting it is Kant's idea of the transcendental self seemed to be a logical extraposition or postulation in order to explain the difficulties without it in obtaining any kind of knowledge. You are pointing out in this way, if these two have to be comprehended, first I present this and then I this, there has to be someone first here and also here to comprehend the two together. If the continuity of the knower across the first and second and the third and the fourth point are not there, not to be assumed, am I right? I mean, this is the way. Okay. In other words, now, according to James's critique of this, if I understand him right again, is that this mere postulation, according to him, had neither been verifiable, because it's only a logical postulate, nor did he find as a pragmatist any use of postulation in real life. So he rejected these and called them, in very strong words, a windy abortion of the transcendental self. Okay, he dismissed it. My observation, which connects with the next presentation of Erickson's work, is a direct one. In that, Erickson, in my opinion, follows the lines of William James in understanding, because he's also interested more in the self, which you emphasize. And then the one thing that I would like to point out in this regard, he, however, you referred to 1968, identity and the life cycle. So identity and youth. So in it he points out that regardless of what you call the psychosocial identity, which is the experiencing of continuity, there is something beyond it which he calls the center of awareness and of volition. And of volition is important because that connects with Kantian, not the pure reason, but of practical reason, because it has the moral implications. I don't want to go into details. What seemed to happen is that with Erickson's emphasis on social being, what you pointed out, the issues of identity politics as gender politics or ethnic politics, national politics, that becomes relevant as a crucial social issue, not so much of an existential issue for individual human beings. That seems to be the transition. And you, sure?
The point of practicality, I think, is essential and profound. In less than 1 minute, I'll say two things. One, as one gets established in this, then the attachment to the different creative and created and changing self-identities becomes more fluid. And the ego boundaries that people strangle themselves with and create wars over, they diminish in their power. Secondly, the dynamism of all action, I firmly believe, is in this experience because its nature is pure satisfaction and the template for action is there. And as the self dwells in satisfaction, our natural instinct, survival of the individual and of the species, the second one, begins to have free play, and compassion, or dharma mega gyan, that begins to come out by itself. So the real point of everything that I said is actually just this, that it transforms life in this positive way. If it weren't that, I wouldn't travel 12,000 miles to do logic.
Time is literally up. I declare this session as complete and finished. Thank you very much.